Vikings fans, we just got some great news from Kwesi Adofo-Mensah's press conference. What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Vikings Now. My name is Patrick Siepman, and coming up on today's show, I wanted to do a deep dive into what Kwesi had to say late afternoon in his press conference before the 24-25 NFL season gets underway. And you may be asking yourself, well, what is the great news that Kwesi was talking about? Well, I thought Kwesi actually showed great self-awareness in this press conference. He talked about the 2022 draft class, and as we know, that has been a disaster so far in his career being the GM. And then he also gave a very positive injury update around TJ Hockenson. Overall, just listening to it, I was fired up, and I was, feeling very confident about him, manning this Vikings group for the foreseeable future. But I want you guys to be honest with me down below in the comment section. Do you believe in Kwesi Adofo-Mensah? If yes, hit that thumbs up icon, like today's video. But if you don't, comment why. Comment your thoughts down below in the comment section, trying to catch the pulse of the Vikings fan base on how they feel about their GM. But Kwesi started off the press conference talking about the Vikings heading in to the 2024 season, as obviously a ton of moving pieces are trying to come together, here for the start of the year. And this is what he had to say. He said, you're trying to hit that magical craps roll where a lot of things happen together at once. You do projections, but you're just projecting what could happen. You could build a Monte Carlo simulation. And when I heard the craps comparison there from Kwesi, he's a gambling man, and I just thought about the Wolf of Wall Street gif where it's like, one of us, one of us, one of us. But it seems like Kwesi, he understands he's taking a risk heading into the year. And I thought Kwesi, looking back at the offseason, I thought it was a fantastic year for what he had to do. Obviously you had big question marks around Kirk Cousins. Was he going to overpay for him, get him to that guaranteed figure that he wanted? Was he going to meet Danielle Hunter at that $27, $28 million per year number? He didn't do either of those. And I thought he made some big moves this offseason. And the three biggest ones were, not overpaying for a guy like Kirk or Danielle. And then what did you do in the first round of the NFL draft? You let Kirk Cousins walk, and then you drafted a potential franchise quarterback in J.J. McCarthy. You let Danielle Hunter walk, and then you drafted a future franchise edge rusher in Dallas Turner. And overall, I just thought throughout free agency, he added a ton of defensive talent on this side of the football. You brought in Blake Cashman, you brought in Shaq Griffin, you brought in Jerry Tiller, even just to man that defensive line unit a little better. And then you also picked up Jonathan Gennard, who in my opinion could be a true top edge rusher on one of the better defenses in the National Football League. But a big question from Cutdown Day was, what are the Vikings doing at the running back position, and what are they doing with Myles Gaskin? This is what Kwesi had to say. He said, we're really, really excited about what he did this training camp. Kevin and I have the glass windows where we can kind of look out on the field, and you can see a guy after game day doing all kinds of drills, just deciding for himself, I want to be the best version of myself for this team. And he also went on to say, this is actually Kevin O'Connell who said this. He said he will be the main kick returner and running back 3 for this year. So I'm assuming the Vikings are going to bring somebody down ahead of the Giants game week 1 and elevate Gaskin to this final 53-man roster. And, he'll be the main kick returner. He'll be the RB3 behind Ty Chandler and Aaron Jones. Just wanted to get you guys the information on that. But Kwesi also talked about the cornerback room. He said a lot around this DB situation. And he said this. He says, we like how we played defense last year, but we wanted to give ourselves the flexibility to be a little more versatile, maybe play a little bit more man to cover defense. So we went out, decided to figure out how to give ourselves an ability to do that. Loving the people we have in the building, but also trying to give ourselves other options. And I think we have done that with an eye on today, but also the future. And then he also said this about Dwight McGlothern, saying, we love keeping Dwight McGlothern, who we think is potentially a really good player. We have Mekhi Blackmon coming back next year. We have a Caleb Evans. We have different players to be thinking about, and we love that they're in a room with Stephon Gilmore and Byron Murphy Jr. to learn from. We responded, and we feel good about the direction that group is headed. And I totally agree with him. Like, if you would have asked my thoughts on this cornerback group probably about a month ago, I would have said hit the panic alarm. This is one of the worst groups in the NFL. But now you're looking at it with Byron Murphy, Gilmore, Shaq Griffin. That's a pretty solid three-man rotation for your starters. And then you got some developmental players behind them, Dwight McGlothern, Caleb Evans, and even the veteran Fabian Morrow, who I think could be a great spot starter in certain positions this year. And I think the defense's success comes down to the DB room. Like, I love what we did at edge. You got Grenard, you got the most versatile player in the National Football League, in my opinion, and Andrew Van Ginkel. You also got Dallas Turner. You got solid defensive linemen on the interior. The linebackers are looking good with Pace and Cashman, and we know the three-headed monster at safety with Metellus, Bynum, and Smith. Like, it all is going to come down to this DB room. Can Shaq Griffin get back to his former self? Can Byron Murphy play at a top 15 cornerback level in the NFL? And then if Stephon Gilmore just gives us what he gave the Dallas Cowboys last season, I think this defense could be very, very successful. But I've been saying they're a no-doubt top 10 team on that side of the field this year. But will the Vikings have a top 5 defense this season? Give me a Y for yes or give me an N for no down below in the comments section. Curious to see what you guys got to say on how you're feeling about this defense heading into the season. Now, coming up next year, I do want to get you guys' Kwesi thoughts on the 2022 draft, Jaren Hall, and then also a very, very positive injury update around TJ Hockenson. We'll break that down here in a second, but first off, got to tell you guys about today's presenting sponsor, and that is Factor. And if you guys head over to factormeals.com/VikingsChat50 and use code VikingsChat50, you guys will get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month while your subscription is active. Now, Factor Meals is one of my favorite sponsors we have because of this. It offers you 35 different meals and more than 60 add-ons to choose from every week. You'll always have new flavors to explore. And if you guys want to crush your wellness goals this month with dietitian-approved meals and ingredients that you can trust, well, Factor Meals might be your solution. Now, make your day delicious from breakfast to dessert. Stay fueled with easy, nutritious options and treat yourself to a restaurant-quality meal that features premium ingredients like filet mignon, shrimp, and blackened salmon. Now, with the football season just about to get underway, you are going to want to keep kitchen time to a minimum, and that's where Factor Meals comes into play, as they are ready in 2 minutes, so that's no shopping, prepping, or cooking or cleaning up needed. Enjoy effortless support for your lifestyle. Choose 6 menu preferences to help you manage calories, maximize protein intake, avoid meat, or simply eat well balanced. So head to factormeals.com/VikingsChat50 and use code VikingsChat50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month. That's code VikingsChat50 at factormeals.com/VikingsChat50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month while your subscription is active. That link for you guys is in the comments section and description of today's show. So probably why you clicked on today's video is you wanted to hear what Kwesi had to say about his 2022 draft class, and he wasn't scared to answer questions about it. He just hit it right on the head saying this. He says, I think when you look at decisions, you try and break them into outcomes. What happens? Bad outcomes, good outcomes, whatever they are. And bad outcomes can happen from a lot of things. Bad decision-making, bad process, bad information, bad implementation when they get here, bad support. There's a lot of different ways that can. So you're always in real time trying to evaluate how you're doing it as an organization, not just for the good of the organization, but the good of the person. And I think at times you get to a place where you decide where that roster spot, that value received, is better used elsewhere, and it also might be better for that player. I thought he was talking about Lewis Cine in that last part of that quote, just saying maybe he could go be successful with the Buffalo Bills, where he did end up signing with their practice squad. But looking back at this 2022 draft class, I mean, this was a disaster for Kwesi. You just look at the first 5 picks. We can start there. Lewis Cine on the Bills practice squad. Andrew Booth actually ended up making the Dallas Cowboys 53-man roster, but that was a waste of a draft pick. You got Ed Ingram, where he is still a question mark at that right guard spot. Brian Asamoah ended up making the team, but again, are we feeling confident about him at that linebacker position? Caleb Evans, just a rotational guy. And then even go down the list. Like, I love the pickups of Ty Chandler and Jalen Nailor. I think they'll have big, impact heading into the season, but Eazy-E, Lowe, they're both not on the team anymore. And even Nick Muse, he's just rotational tight end at this point. But Kwesi carried on to say this. He said, when we bring these players in, we talk about people in this culture being important to us. And it's not just about what's great for us. It's what's great for them. And if it gets to a place where from both sides you decide it's best if you part ways, I think that's when you do it. And ultimately, I have utmost respect and admiration for those guys for what they've meant to the Vikings to this point. They wanted nothing more than to be great Minnesota Vikings. And life doesn't always work out the way you want it to. And sometimes for life's benefit, it doesn't. But I will always be supportive of them. My relationships were not transactional with these players. They have my number forever, and I wish them the best. And, Kwesi will learn from this. He will learn from the mistakes he made in the 2022 draft class, and he would just get better and better and better, just like with anything you do in life. The first time you do it is not even close to your best foot forward. I mean, I go back and I watch some of my old videos here on the channel, and I go watch myself, and I say, I was absolutely terrible. But I learned from it. And I've just slowly gotten better at what I do. And I'm sure Kwesi will be taking the same route in terms of being a GM for this football team. But he also gave great insight on TJ Hockenson. Where is he at in the injury, rehab process? He says he's out there running choice routes. He looks like he could go tomorrow. I think in the past, maybe that's something that would have been more of a given how he looks. He will continue to consult with the doctors. There's a lot of good evidence that suggests certain timelines are better for re-injury risk going forward, and we will follow those. So that's great news out of Hockenson that Kwesi's just coming out and saying he could go tomorrow, but obviously with him being on PUP list, he's more likely to return by week 7. But if you could get Hawk back in this lineup for week 7, it could be huge for this football team as just having that safety blanket, having that top 5, franchise level tight end for a quarterback who is unknown, and Sam Darnold is going to be key for his play heading into this season. But another cut that was pretty shocking, or not a cut yesterday, but a signing and a waive was the Vikings signing Brett Rippon and waiving Jaren Hall. And Kwesi was asked about it, and he said this. He says, I think Jaren's done a great job for us. Obviously, he really improved over the preseason. I use that development word a lot with quarterbacks, and you don't want to throw these guys in too early. And I think with him, we just want more time to pour into him. Now, we did mention about Jaren Hall potentially coming back to the practice squad. He just said that's going to be up to him, but I could see Hall returning. I think he feels very comfortable with the Vikings organization, as he already knows the offense. This was the first offense he learned coming into the NFL, and we actually saw the development from him from game to game this preseason. So I'm sure he's maybe thinking, if I stick with this organization, maybe I could become their backup quarterback of the future behind J.J. McCarthy. But it would be definitely curious to see, or I would be curious to see where Hall ends up. But just want to say thank you guys so much for watching today's show. If you guys made it to the end and watch this entire thing for me, you guys are a real one. So give me a skull down below in the comments section. I'll show you guys some love down there. And then also, if you guys want more Vikings content on your Twitter or X timeline, that's the handle, @PatSieps. Give me a follow over there, and I'll give you guys a follow right back. See you guys next time. SKOL Vikes.